Hello everyone, welcome to another repair video. So in this video today we're going to be looking at a PlayStation 4 Slim which was sent in because it had no power to the disk drive. The company that sends these consoles had already checked another disk drive and confirmed that it was a board level fault, and that's why it was sent to us so we could figure out what was going on. So just a little disclaimer before we get started on the repair, that this video was recorded live while I was streaming on YouTube. So there are going to be a few jump cuts in probably strange locations compared to where the jump cuts would normally be in one of my videos. And the reason for that is because the jump cuts are where I was either interacting with chat or explaining something completely different to chat or just answering questions. So I apologise for the jump cuts, but hopefully this still turns out as an entertaining video, and hopefully it's going to help you to solve your issue if you are facing one. But with that being said, let's get into today's video. So this one says it says overheating, which I'll obviously sort out when I take the board out anyway. But it says PS4 Slim, no power to Blu-ray drive. So this was sent by a company in London that sends me quite a lot of consoles for repair. And I've seen a lot of these. I was actually saying to the owner of the business that we've seen an awful lot of disk drives or motherboards dying because there's no power to the Blu-ray drive. Usually it's either down to one of two things. It's either down to the disk drive itself or the fuse on the board, but then very rarely we'll get a dreaded Renesas failure where we can't actually fix it because the Renesas IC can't be changed. So the only option then is to replace the board if you want to get this working again. So hopefully it's not the Renesas chip. Hopefully we're not going to waste half an hour figuring out whether it is the Renesas chip because we want to get paid. But yeah, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to pop the display over to HDMI as well. So I'll pop the cables in, turn it on, flick over to the capture card, and then we'll see what's happening. The disk drive itself, it's kind of awkward to explain. There's two different variants of this, or of the disk drive circuit that you can get. You've got either the PS4 FAT, which is the SAA001 and SAB001 boards. Those drives aren't married to those drives. The chip that's married is on a daughter board, so it's on a separate board. This is a board off a PS4 FAT. So I know that's pretty small in the camera there, but that's the board in a PS4 FAT that you get, and it's this chip here which is married to the board. So it's called a Renesas IC. It's a custom chip made by Sony, and basically these are tied to the APU. So when you want to change this chip, you've got to change the APU. You've got to change the daughter board chip itself. You've also got to change the secondary RAM. And several other chips on the board. There's about 5 chips that are all tied in together and then locked in software. So yes, you could potentially modify the firmware and change serial numbers and stuff, but it's just not worth it. So if that chip dies, you're in trouble. Now the other version of the disk drive is on the PS4 SAC001 boards, which is the newer revision to the PS4 FAT. It's still a PS4 FAT, but it's a newer revision with lower power management or lower power consumption and a quieter fan. So they don't quite run as hot. But then we've also got a PS4 Slim motherboard and a PS4 Pro motherboard. So the newer revision to the PS4 FAT alongside the PS4 Slim and alongside the PS4 Pro have all got the chip on the board itself. So basically this is an SAC board, I believe. Where's the so that's the SAC board. You can see the board name there. So we've got the SAC board there, and the Renesas chip on there is actually on the board itself, right next to the rest of the drive circuit. So that's the Renesas IC on that, exactly the same chip as what's on this daughter board here. So you can see these two chips are exactly the same. But then on top of that, we also have, if I can find one that I can use as an example, here's one. Here is a PS4 Slim motherboard. The Renesas IC on this one is on the front. So there's the Renesas IC there. And also we have a PS4 Pro motherboard. Bear with me, I'll get one of them as well. And that there is the PS4 Pro motherboard, so kind of similar. But it's not actually called the Renesas IC on the PS4 Pro, as far as I know. As far as I know, there's no actual Renesas IC on here. But we do have a similar IC, which is kind of like a revised variant of it. And that's that chip there. So that's pretty much the Renesas IC for the PS4 Pro. So all of the different boards have got the chip in a different place. In fact, I think it's the same chip as the... let me have a look. No. So this is like a smaller version on the PS4 Slim of the original version. And then on the PS4 Pro, it's just got the MediaTek brand name, which is, I believe, the manufacturer for the custom chips. So MediaTek put their own branding on that one, but you still can't change it. It's still tied to the APU, so there's still no way to replace it without replacing the APU and several other chips on the board. So a bit of a nightmare if they do fail. Right, so we get controller sync. I'm so glad that didn't have a first name on there, a last name on there then. It's just got Arthur K, that's fine. That's good for me. Right, so let's try and pop a disc in then. Doesn't matter what disc we pop in, because if it's going to accept a disc, it's going to accept a disc no matter what. Right, let's at least try and find one that is a PS4 disc though, shall we? NBA 17, that's a good test disc that I usually use. Right, so I'm going to pop back to full screen for a minute. And then I'm going to try and get this so as you can see it on screen. And there's a disc in. Okay, there's a disc stuck in there. And there's no power at all. So it's not ejecting the disc. Alright. That's all I need to see. So I'm going to shut this down. Just bear with me a moment. And you're going to see in a minute that I haven't actually opened this up yet, but I'm going to probably go straight to the problem, if I'm perfectly honest. I did last night. On the last one of these, or yesterday afternoon, on the last one of these I went straight to the problem and fixed it in 30 seconds. Right, console's off. That's good enough. This is the SAE 002 model, as you can see there. And just here along the side is the typical Renesas chip. Okay. Right, so let's just straighten that, because every single time I go to use it, it's not straight. Right, so we've got the Renesas chip here. This is the chip that's actually tied to the board. But if we look above the chip itself, on the circuit there, we can see F6201 and F6202. Normally, when there's no power to the disk drive, F6202 has blown. So I'm going to zoom in on that and we'll test that with the multimeter. So these are basically just protection fuses, and what normally happens is F6202 will fail, and that will cause no power to the disk drive. So I'm going to set the multimeter to continuity mode. That's the mode that beeps when we complete the circuit, and I'm going to test F6202 in the first instance. And what do you know? No beep. F6202 is dead. Let's check F6201. This one should be good. And it is, as you can hear the beep. But F6202 is completely and utterly dead. Just to make sure we are making a contact, we can put one probe on this wire here and the other probe there. And also check it against the back of this fuse. No continuity. So basically what's happening here is the power is coming up through these wires here. It goes into this fuse, so we get the beep, and then it travels along here. It goes back down through these wires, but it also goes to this fuse here. That fuse is supposed to have continuity, but it hasn't. But once it's travelled through the fuse, it goes down here through these two wires, and then if we flip the board over, right, so it comes out just here. And then as you can see here, it does what it does, goes through internal traces and stuff. But then right here is the motor ribbon for the disk drive. So this is the eject and insert ribbon for the disk drive, and then it comes through here. And that's why we can't eject or insert a disk, because there's no way that the console can possibly tell the disk drive to fire up the motor. So that is the entire reason that we don't get any power to the disk drive. But that said, we do have some more fuses to check before we go ahead and change that one. So there's one just here, and this one here is for the motor that spins the actual disc itself. So we've got F6001, which is a fuse, and that one's good. And then we've also got a current sense resistor here, R330, and that one again is good. So some of the boards, not all of them. On the other side there's another fuse just below the Renaissance chip, so let me see if I can find it. I can't remember exactly which boards have this particular fuse. Not all of them do, but let's have a look and see if I can locate that one fuse. I don't think the SAE model does. Nope, that SAE model doesn't have that particular fuse, so that's good. So what we're going to do then, and all we're going to do, is we're going to change this fuse, and that is going to fix the issue, hopefully. So I'll get this fuse removed using just hot air. There we go. So you can see just how small this fuse is. If I put this onto my fingertip, it is absolutely tiny. Right, so I'm going to find a donor board which I can take that fuse off. Let's check this one, see if it's on this board. So this is the SAC model. They are all the same fuse, to be honest. So you can see we've got F5102 there as well. So that's another fuse that's not on the PS4 Slim. Right, so where's F6202 on here? There it is. That's a bigger one on that one, so I'm not going to be able to use that one. But I can use F5001, which is this fuse just here, because that's the same size. I could use the bigger one, but I'm choosing to just use the smaller one. Right, so I'm going to get this fuse off here. And the way I like to get really small components off, I will try my best to show you that, because we don't want to lose this component, and if we drop this at all, we're never finding it again. And actually, let me test the fuse first, because I never tested that. So I'll test that fuse first, just make sure we do have continuity. We do, that fuse is good, so we can use that one. That's great. Chances are I'm probably going to lose this first fuse that I end up taking off, but I'll try not to. And it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to then. Okay, so basically what I like to do is, once I've taken the fuse off, I'll move the heat away, and then usually it will stick to the tweezers. It hasn't this time, but it usually does. So I'm going to move that board out of the way. Bring that one back in. And then you can see there that's exactly the same size. I will zoom in a moment. There we go. Okay, so that's the same fuse there. And what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to get the soldering iron warmed up, and I want to replace the solder that's on the board now with leaded solder to reduce the melting temperature. So while the iron's heating up, just add a little bit of flux. And I'm still holding this fuse in my right hand because it didn't stick to the tweezers like it usually does, because it kind of moved out of the way and I had to grab it after I'd turned the heat off. So what usually happens it'll stick to one side of the tweezers, and then I can just put the tweezers down then and it'll stay there until I actually take it off manually. So let's just replace this solder. There we go. And now I'm going to use hot air and flow this back into place. I can feel it moving away from the tweezers now, so I've got to be quick. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop to 20% airflow. Just lower the airflow right the way down until we flow this in. There we go. Perfect. That went on absolutely perfectly. So, whoops, I just knocked my main camera there, never mind. That should be repaired. That should be one completely fixed console. So, what I'll do then, I'll just clean this off with some IPA. Just get rid of the flux off the board. And while that heat gun is still blowing, I'll dry it off with the warm heat. Not bothered about those little solder blobs there, they're only wires anyway, so as long as these two wires are not bridged, then the fuse will still do its job, should it need to. Right, so I'm going to move that board out of the way for a minute, because like I said, the customer has complained about overheating. So before I actually go ahead and put the motherboard back in, I'm just going to take this chassis off, this metal frame, and I'm going to get the heatsink cleaned before I actually go ahead and test it. So I'm not going to test it until I've cleaned the heatsink, because it's kind of pointless. So on this particular model, on the SAE model, I need to remove these two screws to get this metal chassis out. Right, so I'm going to turn this on and we're going to see what happens. Disk drive is spinning. Let's press that eject button. There we go. Perfect. So it's got Overwatch in it, as we can see. Pop that disk back in. Perfect. Beautiful. Right, so I'm going to switch to capture card now. I'm going to have to switch input back again. There we go. So we should be loading up to the software as we are. And we should be able to load up Overwatch. And we should be able to play it. So let's have a look. Right, so where is Overwatch? Overwatch Origins Edition, is that it? No, we're not going to be able to play it, unfortunately. It's installed on a secondary drive. Yeah, it's installed on an external drive, but if I just get rid of the secondary screen, the picture-in-picture, so I'm not going to be able to play that unless I uninstall it, and I'm not going to do that. However, you can see that that's ejecting by looking at it on the screen, and also when I insert it, we should to the disk icon. Yeah, so that's loading absolutely fine. And as I said, again, down to that exact same fuse, F6202. As expected, because it always is with these things. And the more you know, that's ultimately what it boils down to. It's the more you know. So that's the reason that I do some of these videos, is because most of the issues that we see on the PS4 and Xbox One is down to one specific component on the board. And once you know where that component is, it makes your life 10 times easier. So if you ever get a console where the disc won't insert, obviously just, you know, try and check that fuse first, because if you've got no power going to the disk drive, it's most likely going to be that fuse. That fuse only controls, obviously, one specific circuit, which in this case is going to be the eject and insert motor inside the disk drive. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So all we've got to do is put this back together, and we are done. Right, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. As I explained earlier, this video was recorded live, and it's very difficult to be able to interact with chat and perform the repair and still have a usable video at the end of it. But I hope this does help you to find your issue, and I hope it helps you to fix your issue. Of course, if you're not able to repair it yourself, you are more than welcome to get in touch, and I will help you out, and I always look after my YouTube viewers. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll do my very best to get back to you. And if you want to see more repair videos, or if you want to see a live stream where I fix whatever's in my queue, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so that you're notified every time that I upload. I am trying pretty hard to get to 5,000 subs, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it would really help out the channel a lot. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye for now.